Welcome to the Hidden Saga. In today's chilling episode, we uncover the terrifying mystery of the infamous House of Horror, a place where every resident has met a gruesome fate. Daniel, a real estate agent known for flipping abandoned properties, thought he had found the perfect deal. But what he dismissed as mere superstition soon turned into a nightmare beyond his worst fears. From eerie whispers to ghostly apparitions, this house holds a dark secret that refuses to stay buried. What really happened to Daniel? And why does no one who enters this house ever return? Stay with us as we dive into the sinister legend of Margaret's curse. But be warned, once you know the truth, there's no turning back. Would you dare to spend a night in this house? Subscribe to the Hidden Saga for more spine-chilling tales, and let's uncover the horrors that lurk in the shadows. This is the story of a real estate agent, Daniel, who specialized in buying abandoned properties, renovating them, and selling them at a profit. He always searched for houses that people considered cursed or haunted because he could buy them at low prices and sell them for a good amount. One day he came across an eerie house located in an isolated area. The locals called it the House of Horror because whoever lived there either committed suicide or faced a mysterious accident. It was said that 50 years ago, a woman named Margaret lived in this house with her husband. Her husband was cruel and heartless, subjecting her to daily abuse. One night, unable to bear the torture anymore, Margaret hanged herself in her own room. After her death, her husband lost his sanity and began inviting strangers into the house only to murder them. He would burn their bodies in the basement. Eventually, one day, he too was found mysteriously dead. And since then, every new resident of the house had met a horrifying fate. Daniel dismissed these stories as mere superstitions. He had heard of many so-called haunted houses before, but they always turned out to be nothing but rumors. Confident in his decision, he decided to buy the house at a cheap price and took his friend James with him to inspect the property. The house was in terrible condition. The wooden floor was rotting, and the walls were covered with strange old paintings. The faces in the paintings looked as if they were staring directly at Daniel and James. As soon as they entered, the door slammed shut with a loud bang. James panicked and said, "This place doesn't feel right. We should leave." Daniel smirked and replied, "It's an old house. Doors slam because of the wind." But James remained uneasy. A few moments later, they spotted an old rusted door that was slightly open. Daniel pushed it open further and saw a staircase leading down into the basement. "Most of the terrifying stories about this house are connected to the basement," James whispered. Daniel chuckled and said, "Let's see what secrets are hidden here." As soon as they stepped into the basement, a strange, foul odor filled their nostrils. It was the kind of stench that suggested something had been rotting for years. The walls had bloodstains, and the floor was littered with burnt bones. James's breathing became rapid. He was about to turn back when suddenly a piercing scream echoed through the basement. "This is my house. Leave now." Both men froze in terror. Daniel frantically looked around, but there was no one in sight. Suddenly, with a loud bang, the basement door shut tight. Heavy footsteps could be heard approaching from the other side, as if someone was slowly walking towards them. James screamed, "We need to get out of here." Daniel tried to push the door open, but some unseen force was holding it shut. At that moment, a shadow appeared on the wall, gradually taking the form of a woman. It was Margaret's ghost. Her eyes glowed like fiery embers, and in her hand she held a blood-soaked knife. "Anyone who tries to claim my house will belong to me forever," she whispered. James let out a terrified shriek, and even Daniel took a step back in fear. Suddenly, the door swung open on its own, and both men ran out as fast as they could. The next morning, Daniel began researching the house's history and uncovered a horrifying truth. Before her death, Margaret had cursed the house, declaring that whoever entered it would never escape. After her husband's death, every new occupant had met a gruesome fate. Daniel believed that if he sold the house quickly, he could escape its curse. But on the night he was supposed to meet a buyer, the lights in his room flickered. Suddenly, in the mirror, Margaret's reflection appeared. She was pointing at Daniel and slowly moving towards him. "You tried to claim my house. Now you are mine." The next morning, Daniel was nowhere to be found. When people searched the house, they discovered a chilling message written in blood on the wall. "This house will never let anyone live in peace." Epilogue. The house remains abandoned. Since that day, no one dared to buy the house. Anyone who attempted to spend a night there was never seen again. People say that even today, whispers can be heard from the windows at night. Some claim to have seen the shadow of a woman moving inside. Would you dare to spend a night in this house?